In government contracting, what's the difference between a good proposal and a great proposal?
Your approach. And what I mean by that is, at some point in proposal writing, it's not about the proposal at all. Because eventually you figure it out and you get pretty good at writing proposals. And some of you guys and gals watching this that have been doing government contracting for a little while, maybe you feel like you're at that point and you're wondering, like, what's the next level? Like, how do I go from good to great? It's actually not proposal writing at all. What I mean by that is, at some point you have to really look at what you're offering. Again, what is your proposal? It's an offer. It's an offer with a price, right? So how can you differentiate? How can you add a different approach? How can you add an approach that increases value, maybe reduces time, maybe reduces people required, right? Maybe there's a new technology. Maybe there's just something that you can do or an angle that you can take to doing the work, performing the work. And in that, you will be spelling that out in your proposal that will take your proposal from good to great, because you've already dotted your I's and crossed your T's. Now going to great is about, what are you actually writing? Like, what are you putting on paper? That's going to make it jump off and make it stand out compared to the other offers and proposals that the contracting officer is receiving and is reviewing. So at some point you really need to, once you feel like you have a pretty strong base with proposal writing, you need to think about, how are you approaching it, and in what ways can you come in at a different angle, or something that's more advantageous.
What's something that most get wrong when writing proposals for government contracts?
They parrot. Not the bird per se, but yes, parroting. They read the statement of work and they read that it says, contractor shall do this, contractor shall do this. Then they put in their proposal, we will do this, we attest we will do this. That's parroting. You should not do that. It doesn't explain to contracting how you're going to do it, and it therefore doesn't convey any confidence. Anybody with a cage code and a little bit of a brain can read through a statement of work and say, we will do this, we will do this, we will do this, here's the price. If you're doing that, you're parroting, and you're not going to go very far in the space. Even if you've won 1 or 2 contracts, the bigger requirements, you are going to get shot out of the sky like a parrot, an annoying parrot, right? So don't be an annoying parrot. Understand what they're asking you to do, and in your response, explain to contracting how you are going to do it. When they tell you to acknowledge or speak to the statement of work, that's what they mean. And how do you do that? How would you want somebody to come put a roof on your house? I use this example so many times, but we all get it, right? Do you want 3 companies coming out saying, we will put a roof on your house? We will use shingles? Because that's essentially what you're giving the government, which conveys zero confidence. Or if they say, oh, we're going to use this type of shingle, it's only 10% more in price, but it's going to extend the lifetime of your roof by up to 3 times. Okay, all of a sudden, you have my attention, right? That's speaking to the how, not just the shingle, but what about it? You know what I'm saying? What about you are doing should the government be paying attention to? So you move away from parroting, which is what most get wrong, one of the most common issues that contracting receives with proposals, and you move over to speaking to the how. Immediately, that's going to move you to the top 5, top 10% proposals the government's going to be used to seeing. So,
how can someone who is already bidding raise their proposal to the next level?
Here's a bit of my secret sauce. So if you're writing something down, this would probably be the most valuable thing out of the entire training today. Okay, so listen up. To truly go to the next level, beyond some of the stuff we've already talked about, find a way in your proposals to make the government afraid to not go with your company. Or in other words, in your proposal, convey risk by not going with your company. And here's a clue. Okay, here's something that you can work with in your proposals. The way you go about this is you build in contingency plans into your proposal. You speak to what you're going to do if XYZ happens or if XYZ doesn't happen. Because unless otherwise stated and requested, your competitors are unlikely to provide this. And Derek, oh, what if contracting isn't asking for it? Put it in your technical. Okay, you weave this in your proposal. It doesn't have to be some odd section that you're fitting into your outline. Put it in your technical. Most proposals, nearly all proposals, are requiring your technical. So you can do this, you really can. And you find any weak points, any potential pain points, objections is what they would call them in sales, right? And then you overcome the objection already in your proposal. Well, this could happen, oh no, but here's what we're gonna do about it. We are already lined up to do this. We already have a timely response, a chain of communication. We have people nearby, whatever. We can easily change the schedule, like whatever it is that could occur. You're prepared for that. There are not many companies, unless they're specifically asked for, that are weaving that into their proposal, weaving in these teeth that, imagine reading something like that, right? Again, you've got the GCs out putting a new roof on, and they're like, oh, well, if it rains, okay, we're gonna do this. Or if it's a really hot day, this is what we're going to do, right? Or maybe this is a little bit in advance. If there's a lead time and we're in the middle of a project, here's what we're going to do, okay? These are things that could stall or potentially affect the project. And then you talk to the second person and you ask them those questions, you bring up those objections that were now planted in your mind, and they don't have answers to them. Now you're afraid to not go with the first person, right? So how can you plant seeds? How can you spot and forecast the objections that potentially really could come up as factors on your project should you, as you start acting as if you're doing this? That's another thing, guys. Act as if you've already got the award. Write the proposal as if, okay, well, we're going to be showing up on Tuesday morning. Who's showing up? This is where we're going to be. This is what we're going to get started with. Act as if you're doing this stuff. Okay, embody that energy of this is my award. It's already coming to me, and put that in your proposal. And then cover all those bases of the unforeseens or potential things that could happen. After reading that, contracting is going to, unless it's like a truly low price bid and they don't care about risk, right? There's always a chance of that. But this is how you take your proposals to the very next and highest level.
Describe something in proposal writing that takes relatively low effort but has a very big return.
Very important. Formatting. Formatting. What do I mean? If the contracting officer, okay, you just emailed your proposal over, it's been 5 days and they're just now getting around to it, and they open it up on their computer, and then they know what they're looking for and they have what you provided. If they have to hunt and find what they need, that's not a good thing. You can solve that, right? If they have to burn calories trying to find, because they don't read word for word, page by page, and you should not write that way, okay? These things are about scorecards and evaluations and sections and headers and outlines. So the way you solve this problem, you make your proposal read itself. So the contracting can just sit back and be like, oh my gosh, here's everything that I'm looking for all laid out. Check, 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 acceptable. What's their price? Cool. That's what you want their experience to be. You don't want them sitting there biting their pencil saying, I don't know. Is this kind of here, but it's kind of not here, right? You shouldn't be writing from what you think sounds good. You should be writing from a predetermined rubric that you turn into an outline that you flesh out into a proposal. You work backwards from what they've asked for. If you're not clear on what they're asking for and you're guessing, don't bid on it, okay? Just don't bid on it, pass. Only bid on contracts where you can say, yep, 1122 AABB, and line that thing right up. Nail your formatting. Your proposals will read super smooth, and then don't put any fluff in there. Okay, then when you're done with it, take all the fluff out. Only give them what they need, and be clear, what's fluff and what's strategic. Okay, speaking to risk is not fluff, even if they haven't directly called for it, but that's a strategic play that we're talking about. But you droning on paragraph, when you've pretty much already given them what they've asked for, that's fluff, and it's probably not a good business practice because you're going to come up against proposals with page limits. Okay, so formatting. Make your proposal read itself. Make it so easy that they don't have to exert any energy.
What do you always say about how to never start a proposal.
Never start a proposal with a blank sheet of paper. You should never start a proposal with a blank sheet of paper. I've already mentioned it. You need to start with an outline. Outline means you go through instructions, evaluation factors, section L, section M. Do they need technical? Do they need past performance? Do you need price? Put headers in, okay? You should already have a templated cover page, a templated cover letter. If you need this stuff, get GovRFP, okay? I'll plug it at the end of the video. When you plug in these sections, you use headers, and you use header styles 1, 2, and 3. Then you just click build me an automatic table of contents in your word processor, your Word doc. Okay, then you'll have a cover page, you'll have a cover letter, you'll have a table of contents, right? And then you go into your technical, then your past performance, then your price, or whatever mix, whatever is actually being requested of you. You know, your reps and certs, your SF 1449, your SF 1442, your standard form authority to acknowledge your amendments, whatever document management you got to do, right? But create just places and headers for that. That's a skeleton. And then fill in a little bit more what you need to do for those actual sections. Then that becomes your outline. And then from your outline, flesh it out more with the actual content from you, your team, or teaming partners. And then that becomes your proposal. Follow that process. Nowhere in that process are you starting with a blank sheet of paper.
Share something encouraging with our listeners to help propel them for the next bid.
So here's something encouraging for you guys, especially as you're doubling down in the busy season, right? Number one, there are many opportunities out there on sam.gov where the contracting officer will receive 2 or 3 offers. That's it. 2 or 3 proposals. Some cases, maybe 1. Even fewer cases, maybe 0. So you just don't know what might happen if you put yourself out there. Wayne Gretzky, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Just start showing up. Start showing up. Whether it's your next proposal or your first proposal, show up. I can guarantee you won't win one thing ever if you never show up. But if you start showing up, you're going to show up, you're going to build confidence, you're going to free up bandwidth, you're going to get better at solving other problems in your proposals and getting prices and building teams and your employees and whatever. And you're going to get better, better, better just by showing up, okay? But you'd be surprised what happens when you show up because so many do not show up. So if you will just show up, you might just get lucky. And luck is not a business strategy, but it is part of business. And it absolutely is part of showing up. And I'm sure a lot of you would be more than happy to win your first or your next contract because you showed up and you did a halfway decent job because you follow some of the no nonsense, no fluff advice that I give here on the channel. And of those that show up, a lot of them are just not very good. They're not subscribed to the GovKidMethod, so they don't know these tips and these tools of the trade that I give you. If you know it, you're one of few who knows it, unfortunately, but for now that's the case. Our channel is still growing. But if you are doing this, I'm telling you, it's going to put you in the top 5%. So just show up and just try to do it and see what happens.
Bonus question. What's one irrational fear you have?
Oh boy. So, all right, guys, this is a little vulnerable. So you got to help me out in the comments. So if I'm like, I have this thing with water. Even if I'm like in a swimming pool, I'm still like afraid of sharks. So like if I'm in a swimming pool by myself and I'm like swimming, I feel like I could still get like attacked by a shark, or I could see a fin coming up, right? And sometimes it gets so bad, even if I was like taking a shower, right, and just have water, and then, but if I close my eyes, I kind of like psych myself out, and then that same fear starts to creep up. So that's a very irrational fear. I know it sounds very silly, kind of saying out loud, but maybe you guys, I mean, not maybe, you guys definitely have something. So don't leave me hanging. Let me know in the comments what your fear is. So today, guys, we talked a lot about proposals, and I already mentioned it. So you can go to GovKidMethod.com, click on GovRFP. I have created my proposal writing system, and I've recently really iterated it and fleshed it out. Because with all the AI software and everything changing in the space, I think it's actually more fundamental than ever to double down on writing strong, compliant, competitive proposals. And my thank you is I set the first 3 modules actually to building out that proposal outline that we talked about today. Those are free, and you can just get in with an email, and it's not like a timed thing. You can get in right now. So if that's something that is interesting to you, I will say, even if you have written government proposals in the past, the training is incredibly succinct, but it's also very comprehensive. So it's not just for beginners. And we also do get into pricing. So like I said, it's very comprehensive. We cover a lot, and you can kind of get a taste of it for the first couple modules. Again, so go to GovKidMethod.com. You'll see the GovRP tab. You can learn more about it. You can get the whole training, or you can just log in and get the first couple modules, whatever you would like. So as I mentioned, guys, we are one of the fastest growing federal contracting channels here. If you don't want to miss out on future trainings, you're getting value from these. We certainly intend to keep doing those. Consider subscribing. That way you don't miss out. And it really does help the channel grow. And it just signals to me that you guys are getting something out of this. That feedback is super important to me. So I hope you guys got something out of this. And until next, guys, thanks for watching. And we will go ahead and see y'all in the next one. Take care.